The Great Alliance. The Nexus Council chamber stretched beyond the horizon, a massive artificial construct floating in the void between galaxies. 47 different species had gathered here today, their representatives filling the circular amphitheater that could house millions. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting thousands of different languages and communication methods into something resembling universal understanding. Admiral Zethkar of the Corneri Empire stood at the central podium, his four arms gesturing dramatically as he addressed the assembly. His metallic exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber's artificial lights, and his multiple eyes scanned the crowd with predatory intensity. Behind him, a massive holographic display showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Zethkar's voice boomed through the chamber, enhanced by powerful amplifiers. We gather today to address what our intelligence networks have identified as the greatest threat to galactic peace and prosperity. This planet, which its inhabitants call Earth, houses a species that defies all logic and threatens the natural order of the universe. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Representatives of species that had never agreed on anything before found themselves nodding in unison. The ethereal collective, beings of pure energy who rarely concerned themselves with physical matters, pulsed with agitation. The crystalline, shard communes chimed in harmonic agreement. Even the ancient tree minds of Verdania, who measured time in millennia, swayed their massive branches in acknowledgement. Dr. Velnera from the cerebral collective floated forward, her translucent brain visible through her protective biosuit. The psychological profiles are deeply disturbing, she announced, her mental voice transmitted directly to every mind in the chamber. These humans display unprecedented levels of adaptability, creativity, and what they call stubbornness. They refuse to accept defeat even when faced with impossible odds. Our projections indicate that if left unchecked, they will eventually spread throughout the galaxy like a plague. The holographic display shifted, showing human cities, their chaotic architecture and bustling streets. Then it showed human soldiers in combat, their faces grim with determination as they fought against overwhelming odds in conflicts throughout their history. Commander Thix of the Hive Swarms clicked his mandibles together in agitation. His insectoid form twitched as he spoke through his species' collective consciousness. The Hive has observed their expansion patterns. They colonize hostile worlds that no sane species would attempt to inhabit. They survive in environments that should kill them within hours. They turn barren rocks into thriving colonies through sheer willpower and ingenuity. Exactly, Zethkar continued, his voice rising with passion. They are unpredictable. They do not follow the established patterns of galactic civilization. They create chaos wherever they go, disrupting trade routes, challenging established hierarchies, and inspiring other species to question the natural order. The display showed more disturbing images: humans diving into burning buildings to save strangers, human doctors working tirelessly in disaster zones, human explorers pushing into unknown territories with nothing but primitive equipment and determination. To the assembled alien species, these acts of seemingly irrational bravery and selflessness were deeply unsettling. Elder Keth of the Dominion hegemony spoke up, his ancient voice crackling with age and authority. We have maintained galactic stability for over 10,000 years by ensuring that each species knows its place in the cosmic hierarchy. The humans disrupt this balance. They form alliances with species far above and below their technological level. They share knowledge freely instead of hoarding it for advantage. They are fundamentally incompatible with civilized society. The chamber erupted in agreement. Species that had been enemies for millennia found common ground in their fear and resentment of humanity. The proud warrior clans of Vorthek, who respected only strength, complained that humans fought without honor, using tactics that were impossible to predict. The merchant guilds of Syrian grumbled about humans disrupting established trade by offering fair deals to species that had been exploited for centuries. They have a saying, Dr. Velnera continued, her mental voice heavy with disgust. Hold my beer and watch this. Our linguistic experts believe it roughly translates to observe as I attempt something both dangerous and unprecedented while in an impaired mental state. This phrase appears frequently in their historical records, usually preceding events that should have resulted in catastrophic failure, but instead led to breakthrough innovations or military victories. The Mechanical Consensus, a collective of AI entities from the Forge worlds, spoke in perfect unison through their representative units. Analysis confirms. Humans consistently achieve outcomes that violate probability matrices. Their luck factor appears to be a measurable force that cannot be quantified or replicated. This anomaly threatens the logical structure of reality itself. Zethkar seized the moment. The solution is clear. We must act now, while they are still confined to their single world and a handful of primitive colonies. The Grand Alliance of Galactic Species hereby proposes immediate military action to neutralize the human threat before it can spread further. The vote was called. One by one, each species cast their decision. The proud stellar dynasties voted yes. The ancient machine collectives voted yes. The mystical energy beings voted yes. Even the peaceful gardener races, who had never supported military action before, reluctantly agreed that the human anomaly was too dangerous to ignore. The final tally was displayed for all to see. 47 species in favor of military action, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. It was the first unanimous decision in the Council's 10,000-year history. Meanwhile, billions of light-years away on Earth, Major Sarah Chen sat in a dimly lit control room buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. Banks of sophisticated monitoring equipment surrounded her, their screens filled with cascading data streams that tracked radio signals, gravitational anomalies, and quantum fluctuations from across the galaxy. Major called out Dr. Marcus Rivera, the team's lead xenolinguist, his voice tight with concern. We're picking up massive communications traffic from the Nexus sector. The encryption is incredible, but we're starting to break through. Sarah pushed back from her console and walked over to where Dr. Rivera and Dr. Elena Vasquez, their quantum physicist, were hunched over a bank of computers. The screens showed wave patterns and mathematical equations that would have been meaningless to most people, but Sarah had been trained for this moment her entire career. "What are we looking at?" she asked. Dr. Vasquez looked up, her face pale. "It's a mobilization order. 47 different alien species are coordinating the largest military fleet in recorded galactic history. And Sarah, they're all heading here." The room fell silent except for the quiet hum of the equipment. Sarah felt her stomach drop, but her training kicked in immediately. She moved to the secure communication panel and began entering authorization codes that she had hoped never to use. "Dr. Rivera, how long do we have?" she asked as she worked. "Based on their fastest known propulsion systems, maybe 6 months. Possibly less if they have technology we haven't observed yet." Sarah completed the authorization sequence and pressed her palm against the biometric scanner. A soft chime indicated that her identity had been confirmed at the highest levels of security. "Authorization confirmed," she said into the microphone. "Project Phoenix is now active. Repeat, Project Phoenix is active. All units, initiate Phase 1 protocols immediately." Across the globe, similar facilities received the same message. Deep underground installations that officially didn't exist began powering up systems that had been dormant for decades. In orbital facilities disguised as commercial satellites, weapon systems that existed only in the fevered imagination of science fiction writers began running diagnostic checks. Dr. Rivera stared at the continuing stream of alien communications. "Sarah, there are so many of them. Every major power in the galaxy has agreed to work together just to destroy us. How is that even possible?" Sarah looked out through the reinforced window at the Rocky Mountains visible in the distance. Somewhere up there, families were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their world was about to face the greatest threat in human history. "Because," she said quietly, "they don't understand what we are. They see our chaos and unpredictability as a threat to their ordered universe. They think we're just another species to be cataloged and controlled. She turned back to her team. But we're not just another species, are we? We're humans. We're the people who looked at fire and decided to tame it. We're the people who saw the ocean and built ships to cross it. We're the people who looked at the sky and decided we belonged among the stars. The alien armada was already assembling at the edge of known space, a collection of vessels so vast that it blocked out entire star systems. 47 species, united in their certainty that humanity was a plague to be eliminated. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The human response. 6 months later, the edge of Earth's solar system shimmered with the arrival of the largest military fleet in galactic history. Ships of every conceivable design materialized from hyperspace in perfect formation, their combined mass creating gravitational distortions that registered on every observatory on Earth. Admiral Zethkar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Inevitable Conquest, a vessel so massive that smaller ships could dock inside its hangar bays. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of over 50,000 warships representing 47 different species, all united in their purpose. "Open a communication channel to the human homeworld," he commanded. "It is time to offer them one final chance at surrender." The transmission reached Earth within minutes, on every television, radio, and digital device on the planet. The same message appeared simultaneously. Zethkar's imposing figure filled screens around the world as he delivered humanity's ultimatum. "People of Earth," his translated voice boomed through the planet's communication networks. "I am Admiral Zethkar, Supreme Commander of the Grand Alliance of Galactic Species. Your world is now surrounded by the combined might of 47 civilizations. We have come to address the threat you pose to galactic stability." In the Colorado Command Center, Major Sarah Chen, now promoted to general, watched the transmission alongside world leaders who had gathered for this moment. President Martinez, Prime Minister Okafor, Chancellor Zhang, and dozens of other heads of state sat in grim silence as the alien admiral continued. "Your species has been judged incompatible with civilized galactic society. Your unpredictable nature, your disregard for established order, and your dangerous tendency to inspire chaos among stable civilizations cannot be tolerated. However, the Grand Alliance is merciful. Surrender now, accept relocation to designated reservation worlds, and submit to genetic modification to remove your more problematic traits, and your species will be allowed to survive." The transmission paused, allowing the weight of the ultimatum to sink in. Then Zethkar's multiple eyes seemed to stare directly at each viewer. "You have 1 hour to respond. Refuse our generous offer, and your world will be cleansed to make room for more suitable inhabitants. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. Then, slowly, something remarkable began to happen. Instead of panic, instead of despair, a familiar emotion began to spread across the planet. It started in small groups. Emergency responders who had run toward danger their entire careers, soldiers who had sworn oaths to defend their home, scientists who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of the possible. The emotion was anger, pure, focused, human anger. General Chen stood up and walked to the communication console. Around the world, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's leaders made the same choice their ancestors had made when faced with seemingly impossible odds. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," she ordered. Dr. Rivera looked up from his station. "Sarah, are you sure about this?" She nodded grimly. "Do it." The transmission went out on all frequencies, reaching not just the alien fleet but broadcasting to every corner of human space. General Chen appeared on screens throughout the solar system, from Earth's cities to the mining stations in the asteroid belt to the research outposts around Jupiter's moons. "Admiral Zethkar," she began, her voice steady and clear. "This is General Sarah Chen, speaking on behalf of the human species and the sovereign world of Earth. We have received your ultimatum, and considered your offer carefully." She paused, and for a moment the only sound was the quiet hum of electronics. Then she smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Our answer is no." The words echoed across space, reaching the alien fleet and the hidden human installations that had been preparing for this moment for decades. "You see," Chen continued, "you've made a fundamental error in your calculations. You've spent so much time analyzing our problematic traits that you've completely missed the most important thing about humanity." On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, Zethkar's multiple eyes narrowed in confusion. Around him, his officers maintained their confident postures, but some small part of their certainty began to waver. "We don't surrender," Chen said simply. "Not when our home is threatened. Not when our families are in danger. Not when faced with extinction. You call our unpredictability a flaw, but we call it adaptability. You call our disregard for order chaos, but we call it freedom. You call our tendency to inspire others a threat, but we call it hope." As she spoke, something extraordinary began happening throughout the solar system. Objects that had appeared to be asteroids suddenly shed their camouflage, revealing themselves to be massive weapons platforms. Satellites that had orbited Earth for decades powered up defensive systems that shouldn't have existed. Space stations that officially conducted peaceful research began deploying weapon arrays that violated every known law of physics. "You want to know what makes humans different from every other species in the galaxy?" Chen asked. "We've been preparing for this day since the moment we first looked up at the stars and realized we weren't alone. While you were building your perfect, ordered civilizations, we were getting ready for the war we knew would come." Captain Jake Morrison, commander of the stealth destroyer Defiant, watched from his hidden position near Saturn as the alien fleet began to realize they had walked into a trap. His ship, like dozens of others, had been waiting in the outer system for months, powered down and invisible to alien sensors. "All units," came the order through his earpiece. "Execute Operation Checkmate. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home." The battle began with surgical precision. Human ships, smaller and faster than their alien counterparts, struck from unexpected angles using weapons that the alien fleet couldn't detect until it was too late. Dr. Rivera's team had spent years developing quantum disruption fields that could interfere with alien technology, and now those weapons turned the enemy's size advantage against them. But the real shock came when the aliens tried to retaliate. Every shot they fired at Earth was intercepted by defensive systems that seemed to appear from nowhere. Energy shields flickered to life around major population centers. Missile batteries hidden in seemingly innocent commercial buildings began launching counterstrike after counterstrike. On his flagship, Admiral Zethkar watched in growing horror as his perfect formation began to break apart. Ships that had never known defeat were being systematically disabled by vessels a fraction of their size. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence indicated they had only primitive space capabilities." Dr. Velanera's mental voice was tinged with something the cerebral collective rarely experienced: panic. "They've been deceiving us. Those primitive ships we observed were decoys. Their real fleet was hidden. They've been planning this for decades." Commander Thix's compound eyes tracked the movement of human fighters with growing respect. "They fight like the Hive, but with individual initiative. Each ship operates independently, but coordinates perfectly with the whole. It should not be possible." The tide of battle shifted as more human ships decloaked throughout the system. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, designed specifically to counter alien advantages. They were fast enough to avoid the massive weapons of the alien dreadnoughts, tough enough to survive hits from smaller ships, and armed with weapons that turned alien technology against itself. Captain Morrison led a squadron of destroyers in a direct assault on Zethkar's flagship. The massive alien vessel bristled with defensive systems, but the human ships moved like dancers, weaving between weapon batteries and striking at critical systems with pinpoint accuracy. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, working from her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, activated a device that had been theoretical until this moment. The quantum cascade generator sent waves of disruption throughout the alien fleet, causing their most advanced systems to malfunction at the worst possible moment. As alien ships began to retreat toward the edge of the system, Admiral Zethkar found himself facing a reality that none of the 47 species had considered. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were winning. "Admiral," one of his officers reported, his voice hollow with disbelief, "we've lost 30% of the fleet. The humans are coordinating their attacks perfectly. It's as if they know exactly how to counter every one of our technologies." Zethkar stared at the tactical display, watching as his supposedly invincible armada was systematically dismantled by a species that was supposed to be primitives armed with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving communications from the other species. They're questioning the intelligence reports. Some are suggesting we withdraw and reconsider our approach." The Grand Alliance that had seemed so unshakable just hours before was beginning to fracture. Species that had united in their fear of human unpredictability were now experiencing that unpredictability firsthand, and they were discovering that it wasn't a weakness at all. General Chen's voice echoed across the system one final time. "You came here expecting to find sheep ready for slaughter. Instead, you found wolves protecting their den. This is our home, Admiral Zethkar, and we will defend it with everything we have." As the alien fleet retreated to regroup, both sides knew that this was only the beginning. The greatest conflict in galactic history had begun, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the established order of the universe was truly in question. The humans had done something impossible once again. They had united 47 species in purpose, and then shattered that unity through sheer determination and the kind of stubborn refusal to accept defeat that had carried them from caves to the stars. The galaxy would never be the same.